here we are. I was seeing this morning. The last time we saw a sweep was, I mean, that's Detroit Red Wings, Washington Capitals, 90s type stuff. We're not quite there, but your impressions on what you saw last night and what felt like a must-win for the Oilers that didn't pan out.
Yeah, no, it was 100% must win. Florida's just too good. You know, Florida is ready to win. It's as basic and as simple as that. And I just don't see, you know, look, it's not a great look for the league in general when you have a sweep in the Stanley Cup Final. I can appreciate that. I wouldn't be surprised if Edmonton finds a way to muster a win and a split on home ice, but I don't see much hope of the Oilers beating the Florida Panthers 4 straight with 4 remaining. It's just not going to happen. And the biggest problem that Edmonton has right now is Sergei Bobrovsky. I mean, they allowed him to establish his game and his presence in game 1 of this series, and they've never been able to get that back. And it's not that Stu Skinner has been bad, because he hasn't been. He gave up 1 lousy goal last night, and this time of year, that can be the difference. And then you look at, you know, the penalty kill of the Florida Panthers. I mean, we keep looking at the power play of Edmonton and saying, well, how can this power play? They're so great. They're 0 for 10. How can that be? Well, all right, let's give a little bit of credit to the penalty kill of the Florida Panthers. I mean, they went through Tampa Bay, pretty good power play in Tampa Bay. Came through the Eastern Conference Final, decent power play that the New York Rangers have. So the confidence in the penalty kill of the Florida Panthers has kind of taken over this series as well.
Is that based off of, I mean, I think it's a combination. When I look at Florida and I watch them on that penalty kill, they're smart. I'm sure they've been coached that way and they've got a system they want to play and this and that, but they're making the reads where, don't chase, don't run out of position. If they've got position, take away the pass, because we'll let the goalie, and I think some of it comes from trusting your goalie that he's going to make the standard saves, so you don't have to panic on any of that. Is anyone else seeing how smart this Panthers lineup seems to be?
Really is smart, right? And we look at the top end suspects, you know, Barkov and his level of commitment and all that. I actually have been as impressed or more impressed the adjustments that the defense of the Panthers are making on that penalty kill. You know, we've all seen Leon Draisaitl from the one-timer spot in the circle. Well, now all of a sudden, you know, you see the Florida Panthers, as this series has evolved, peel off and take that option away. And look at Evan Bouchard. I mean, I've never blocked a shot in my life. This guy he's struggling to get the puck through. I mean, this guy shoots a puck at 95 miles an hour from that blue line, and the penalty killers are standing in there and going, okay, have at it, man. You got to get through it. So their shin pads are taking a beating. But again, it's just taking away an option. And I tried to get Paul Maurice to bite on this in terms of, okay, well, what sort of tactical adjustments did you make with that great power play, right? He's like, Dregs, just again, have a look at what we've gone through here, right? Yeah. And it's not like these other power play units are that much inferior to Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. That's not the case. And they've just developed a level of confidence that is unreal. I just don't see how they're going to lose.
What's going on with Leon? Like, he's a guy that absolutely hammers the puck. He had 5 shot attempts last night. I don't know that he got 1 clean. Like, I just look at a guy, I'm like, he can't be right because he's not shooting the puck. And that guy hammers the puck as well as anyone. Yeah,
I'm with you. There hasn't been a suspicion of injury. I mean, this time of year, I mean, everyone's probably heard something, right? I think that reality is just set in for Leon Draisaitl. And maybe for McDavid. The belief is there. And I'll give Leon credit for this. Twice in 3 games, this man has dove on the sword, where he said, I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm just going to assess my game. I haven't been good enough, right? Well, that speaks to a maturity, which tells us that they're getting closer to maybe where Florida is, but they're not there yet. So I think it's just the realization that unless they can turn Corey Perry into Nick Kyprios, and he absolutely steamrolls Sergei Bobrovsky in game 4, they're not going to beat him. tried. It's not to a lack of effort or belief. They just haven't been able to do it. And I think that it's more of an issue of will now than it is the physicality or the issues that Leon Draisaitl might be facing physically.
Yeah, reading just some of the stuff that was written last night and into the morning as columnists and journalists try and find the descriptor for this Florida team. It's like they're suffocating, and they're not really. I guess they are suffocating, but it's a relentless attack that makes them suffocating. When you think suffocating, that's New Jersey Devils in the '90s.
It's LA.
Remember Guy Boucher? You know, the 1-4 where Pronger would just sit and wait for them to forecheck, and the Lightning wouldn't forecheck. This is it's tenacious and relentless, and it's exhausting for teams. And credit to the Panthers. We talked about it before. How much stock do you put in the fact that this team, the Florida Panthers, they were there last year? More and more, based on what we're seeing. They're not too high, not too low.
There's a poise about them, isn't there, Dean?
1 line, 4 line. They have an identity, and they just bring it. It's static across the board.
The support is incredible, right? Offensive, defensive support in all 3 zones. You know, one guy gets beat or needs help, there's another player there automatically. Like it's like clockwork with these guys. And we've talked about this on the show, maybe setting up the series before. And it's just the lack of selfishness throughout that group. And yeah, you can look at Bennett and you can look at Barkov and the stars up front. I look at Aaron Ekblad. That's who I look at. Aaron Ekblad, for the majority of his career, was a point producer, right? He was an offensive defenseman. That's really what he was out there for. That's why he's making the money that he's making. At some point, Paul Maurice had to convince Aaron Ekblad, all right, well, we think that Brandon Montour is a better option on the power play, but we need you to buy into that. And we need you to buy into more of a focus on being a shutdown defenseman. And if you are able to do that, then there's a strong chance we're going to win. Ekblad, I mean, that guy's hurt. I mean, he's playing hurt. We all saw him bend the ankle over, you know, early in the series. He's played through it. He's blocking shots. You know, Fogle scores on the breakaway, and what was it, a shift or two later? Ekblad puts him into the bench. Just like, okay, just cool your jets here, dude. You know, you scored a goal, but we're going to close on this, and we're going to deliver a message. I just think that this team is so well built right now. They're going to win. They're just ready to win, and they're going to win. And now if I look into the crystal ball, the structure and the makeup of this team, they're so well managed, they're so well coached, that even when you look at, okay, Sam Reinhart's contract is coming up. Is he the priority? Is it Brandon Montour who's the priority? You can't keep them both. I mean, Brandon Montour is going to be a $7.5–8 million defenseman. You know, so what's Reinhart going to make? So when you're as well-rounded and as committed as every player is, doesn't that make the shopping a little bit easier? If you're Billy Zito, you maybe can't find the exact replica for Brandon Montour if your priority is Sam Reinhart. But the message to whoever you're courting in free agency is, okay, here's why we think you're the fit. Here's how we need you to play. And if you're not interested in playing the way we play and the structure that we play with, then go to team B, C, or D on your free agent list. I mean, they're so well built, like they could go on a cup run here. They could be a team that could win back-to-back or more. They really could.
The one thing that separates them for me than other teams is they don't have stupid money on their roster. Every team, you're like, there's $10 million wasted. These guys don't. Like, it's all efficient. If Bob's a stud, and he has been, and they've lightened his workload the last few years, so he's great this time of year. Like, all the guys, no one's making way too much money. They don't have a Darnell Nurse contract. They're not buying out James Neal. They don't have a $5 million goalie in the AHL.
Yeah, to that point, we talked about it yesterday, just the work that Bill Zito's done there. You find Forsling on waivers, the Montour thing, they got him for a third and then signed him to a friendly deal. You get Bennett for, you know, looking back, pennies on the dollar. The Kachuk
Evan Rodriguez, go down the list here. Like
even Reinhart, Devin Levi in a first for Sam Reinhart, who's had 30, 30, and 57 goals or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Pretty tidy work there for Bill Zito. I thought it was interesting too last night. Paul Maurice was talking about it, and coaches will get a little, you're coaches, right? But I believe it to be true. And we sit here in Calgary, and it's not to pick on the Flames or anybody else, but we talk about what's your identity? What do you do? The coach, what's the coach going to say? And Maurice basically said last night, I haven't said much to this team all year. Mm-hmm. The room polices the room. Those guys, they don't need to hear from me. I just go in and say hi once in a while. And I think it's probably, hyperbole, but I think there's probably something to that. Probably that room, and watching the way they perform on the ice, they probably are very much a self-contained unit in there. Yeah.
And I mean, you guys know Matthew Tkachuk very, very well. You look at how he's kind of refined his approach, like they were trying to get under his skin. Corey Perry was John with him last night. He wanted no part of that.
He got under Corey Perry's skin. That's what happened there.
Yeah, I'm not going to be bothered with you. I mean, he got into the little dust up with Brett Kulak and took a couple of shots to the side of the head. Okay, well, how do you respond? You respond by Sam Reinhart in the very next shift scoring on a beauty deflection. And then Matthew, forcing the turnover that led to the Bennett goal, right? So they're just so well dialed in. But to your point, Dean, and I think that this is just commonplace for Stanley Cup championship teams. And I've heard this from other coaches where they just say, when you get to that place, really as a coach, you're just kicking the door open. When you're that committed and everybody is bought in, you're just, okay, next guy up, next. Look at the time on ice for a second here. If you guys didn't, I checked it last night. All the big money guys, or the big minute guys for the Oilers, are what, around 25 plus minutes? I think Florida had 2 guys played 20 minutes.
Yeah, Hyman was 24, Bouchard 27, 22 for Newt. Yeah, it's all 22, 23 plus.
Yeah, and Florida's got 2 guys that played 20 minutes. And the rest are below that. It's
and the others have to, right? It's just like
they have no choice. They're chasing.
Yeah.
Does this speak at all? I mean, obviously the team's been. It's been a long time since Florida was regarded as a really good organization, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be hard on them, but there was a while where it was not the best of spots.
It's kind of a joke, right? Bad owner, no one showing up,
nobody
teams
at the rink. It wasn't a good scenario. But anyway, so they go through the downtimes. They get Ekblad, they get Barkov. They end up with Reinhart. They end up with Bennett. They end up with Tkachuk. The point I'm getting at is they got to fast track it in a way because they picked up those guys for such good deals. But does it speak again to you have to be bad to get good? Right?
Kind of does.
Yeah. Ekblad at 1.
Yeah.
Barkov at 2. They still had
but
some top 5, number 1 picks. They had to pick high for a while.
Yeah, and I mean, making the trade for Matthew Tkachuk, I mean, cutting bait on Jonathan Huberdeau, there's no way that Billy Zito and the Florida Panthers saw when Huberdeau was in Florida, what we've seen from Jonathan Huberdeau in Calgary. He didn't know that was coming. Maybe he thought that he was more of a support player with Barkov than anything else, but he didn't see that. So, we got to give him credit because it is certainly worked out. But I think that there is something to knowing when is the right time to act and bring in the pieces that you need to bring in. And a big part of that is coaching. Hey, like I think of Bruno, like Andrew Burnett deserved to get the head coaching job of the Florida Panthers.
Yeah,
he did. He came in an impossible situation with Q and everything that went down there. Coached his ass off. Absolutely did.
President's Trophy.
Yeah, Billy Zito went, I think we're close enough right now that I need more experience. I need somebody who can sell it, not just to the players, who has a history of dealing with star end guys and making sure that group has synergy and stays intact, but also selling it to the community and selling hockey in Florida. And that was Paul Maurice. So I think it's a little bit of everything that has brought this group to a place where they're ready to win, and they are.
And does it become now one of those destination spots? The good tax rates, or
really it already has been. When Tkachuk went there, he showed it, right?
Yeah,
he was on the short list.
Yeah, and look, I mean, not that Vladdy Tarasenko, scored last night. Obviously, a big goal. he's not the player that he once was. He's in the back nine of his career here pretty obviously, but he came out as soon as he arrived in Florida after the trade deadline and said, well, there was only one team I was going to. And I told Ottawa, you're trading me to Florida, so just make that deal.
Same with Claude Giroux, right?
Claude
a
year ago.
And this is more credit to Kevin Adams of the Buffalo Sabres. He wanted to do right by Kyle Okposo. And so he took less than what it probably could have gotten, for Okposo in terms of the type of player he is, the character and all of that. There were lots of playoff worthy teams that had interest in Kyle Okposo. I don't know. He handpicked Florida because he wanted to give Kyle the best opportunity to win a Stanley Cup. So I guess what I'm saying, I'm kind of supporting what you said, Rhett. When you go through the growing pains and you slow build to a place to win, well, that's what happens, right? Then you get into that honey spot where players want to come, and it is 100% a destination of choice. And it's not about the tax money. That's a fringe benefit. Of course, it's cool. Everybody wants that as an unrestricted free agent. But if you can get your tax-free money and you can win a Stanley Cup and maybe multiple Stanley Cups, that's when you're in that sweet spot where players start to leave money on the table, right?
Yeah. And that's probably what Sam Reinhart's looking at, eh?
100%. Yeah. It's, you know what? I think he's going to get his fair value. He is. But he recognizes that the fit is as near perfect as you're going to get for a player and an organization. He proved that in the regular season. He's been a good playoff performer. I mean, I was happy for him. Scored a beauty goal last night, a key goal after that dust up with Tkachuk and Kulak. But there's also danger when you go chasing the big bucks. Like Reinhart's made good money to this point in his career. He's going to be treated fairly by Florida, but he's not going to get as much as he would get if he went to free agency.
Yeah, he's seen the bottom-dwelling basement team. Like if there's a guy that could put in perspective in the context of winning and not winning, it's Sam Reinhart.
Yeah,
that's
agreed.
Outhouse to penthouse.
Big time.
We got about 60 seconds, Retro. We got to get.
I just was curious. We're bragged up what the Panthers are, and rightfully so. I don't know who's beating them this year. Obviously, doesn't look like anyone. But what's Edmonton now? Like, are we seeing the holes that we're maybe concerned, or is it just circumstantial? Do you what's the take on Edmonton at this point?
Yeah, I mean, again, how can you not make the comparison when you've got the final two teams here in the Stanley Cup Final? That's exactly what you're doing. So you look at, the production that they're getting from Evan Rodriguez, and you're looking at, some of the push from guys who are lower in their lineup. And then, Warren Foegele scored a nice goal. It was a big goal. The roof almost came off the building last night. Ryan McLeod gets a real decent deflection, but there was no urgency in the Oilers game to that point. Adam Henrique has had his chances. He hasn't been able to capitalize. So I think that the Oilers are looking through their roster and going, we just don't have the same level of commitment and the same level of compete from top to bottom, right? And how do you find that? And then on top of that, you've got the goalie card. I think they still see a very strong future in Stu Skinner. I really do. I don't think that there's any sort of crisis in the crease in Edmonton. But one of the main stories will be Edmonton getting out-goalied in the Stanley Cup Final. So, there'll be some questions. And I'll put my insider hat on now. As soon as that trophy gets hoisted, you know what we're talking about? Who's coming in to replace Kenny Holland? And what's the management view? Who's going to be the architect of some of the changes that we're going to see? And could it start with a Leon Draisaitl? What if Draisaitl on July 1st, at some point in July, as he's going into the final year of his deal, says, "No, I'm not talking contract." And he probably won't talk contract.
I don't expect him to.
Yeah, he's going to need time to decompress and all of those things. But how do you go into the season with Draisaitl kind of twisting, not him twisting in the wind, the organization twisting in the wind, as he just goes, "No, I'm just going to play with the string. Everything will be fine."
It's a burn the boat season, or you try to reload for Connor, right? It's one of the two.
Exactly. It's exactly right. And who's going to do that? There's lots of names that are being kind of speculated out there in terms of replacing Paul Hunter or Kenny Holland. Is it Mark Hunter? Is Paul Coffey
So
going to
it
have
won't
a
be
different
Jeff
role?
Jackson, is that correct?
It could be. Yeah, it could be.
Because he's president or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot more rumblings around Mark Hunter, but again,
Right.
that's all just speculation at this point. Oh, hey, Jax isn't going anywhere. He's going to be heavily involved and, likely maintain his president's role. But I do wonder about Paul Coffey. He's entrenched in Edmonton. He's super tight with the owner. He's super close with Jeff Jackson. So I'm fascinated by what hockey operations in Edmonton is going to look like next year.
We'll let you get out of here. The morning skates and all that'll be happening. But I saw you were, because out at the moss pit outside, they had a whole bunch of people. I saw you were out there. One of the things they had set up for fans, if they wanted to, they could pay. I'm not sure how much you could probably tell us. Shave your favorite numbers player or your in the back hair.
Looking good.
So how much were they? How much did that run a guy, Dregs?
I honestly, this is the first I'm seeing of this, and I did see some sketchy stuff in that mosh pit. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I bet.
Now, I wonder is that Brian Boyle or who is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure who that is.
Because I saw him with NHL Network in the pit as well. So
we'll do some investigative research. All right, buddy. Enjoy game 4, and maybe your last trip to Edmonton for a while. That'd be good.
Likely is. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, fellas, have a good one.
Have a great weekend. There he is. Darren Dreger, TSN Insider, our insider here on Barn Burner.
Hey, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long-form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And, of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.